This episode of the HoneyDew is brought to you by MyBookie.com. Also, Saturday, September 14th, Baltimore. I think there's a couple seats left to the show I'm doing at the Famous. Head over to RyanSickler.com. Get the tickets if you want to come out. And also, there's a new email list I have going there. So make sure you sign up for all the upcoming info. And let's get into the do.
You're watching the HoneyDew with Ryan Sickler at your mom's house.
Welcome back to the HoneyDew, y'all. We're over here at Studio Jeans doing it up at your mom's house. I'm Ryan Sickler. You can find me on all social media at Ryan Sickler. My website is ryansickler.com. Baltimore, September 14th. I'm going to be back at the Famous. Get your tickets now if it's not already sold out, because I don't know if I can do 2 shows this time. If you want to see me locally, go to my website, ryansickler.com. All the dates are there. And I just want to say again, every week, thank you. Thank you to every one of you out there. The messages, the replies, all of it. I see it, I feel it, and I appreciate your support. The biggest way to help the podcast, I say all the time, is to engage in the sponsors. Make sure you're subscribed, download it, review it. Make sure you're subscribed to Your Mom's House YouTube channel. That's where you get video every Tuesday, all right? The website here for the show is thehoneydewpodcast.com. That's where you can get all the merch, the social media links. If you want to know anything about the HoneyDew, go to the website. That's where you can find all the information, all right? And if you are new to the show, what we do here is we highlight the lowlights, all right? We look for a little bit of that light in the darkness. We like to have a good time with it. And as I always say, these are the stories behind the storytellers. And today, my guest is some first time on HoneyDew, somebody I've been wanting to have for a while. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Brian Redban.
Hey, thank you.
Welcome to the HoneyDew,
What's
Brian
up,
Redban.
thick blood?
That's how I know you listened. Dude, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me,
We've been
man.
trying to make this happen.
Thank you.
Before we get into your story, will you please plug, promote everything and anything you like? That's you right
there. Sure. Deathsquad.tv. There you have every single podcast I've ever done. I'm about to have a bunch of new podcasts because I got a new studio in Burbank that's almost done. Do Kill Tony every Monday at the Comedy Store. We're going to be in Philly and Pittsburgh next week. I think Pittsburgh's sold out, but Philadelphia. And August 17th, I'll be headlining the American Comedy Company, and I bring George Perez and Aiko Tanaka with me. So go to deathsquad.tv, everything there, Redban on all the other social medias.
Awesome, dude.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know where you were originally from. You know,
Yeah.
you've been sort of, for me, you were this entity called Redban. We now have Blue Band over here.
Yeah.
That's a spawn.
Yeah,
That's your
I know.
spawn, bro.
I know. At first, I thought he was just an eagle. I didn't know he was a real person for the longest time. I thought they just had an eagle they called Blue Man. I didn't know.
And you were in the game. You were early on in the
Yeah.
game. So you were somebody I always watched from afar, and I've got to know a little bit. We've done a few shows together, and I really enjoy your company and working with you and stuff. But I do want to know, because you got a dark side to you.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to get a little bit deeper into that.
Sure.
So why don't you just start at the beginning, brother?
So I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio. I lived there 30 years before I even left.
You did?
Yeah, which is weird because and depressing. Because I always wanted to go to California, and then there was a point in my life where I'm like, well, I'm just going to be a manager at Gateway Computers for the rest of my life. I remember like thinking, I'm done. You know, I'm going to live here. I just need to get married, have a kid, call it out. And then when I finally moved here.
So was the move, you left Ohio, went right to California?
Yeah,
Okay.
Joe Rogan hired me. And
while you were in Ohio?
Yeah,
No shit.
moved me out.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a fan of my work, and he wanted me to just work for him. I was his first employee, and I still am his employee, but he moved me out. And then when I got here, I got really depressed because I was like, I could have lived here my whole life. Like, why did I wait so long?
Right.
And I'm like, I'm already 30. I would love to have lived out here when I was in my 20s. I'd probably be dead, but it would have been amazing.
Did you start stand up at all, or like mess around at all in Ohio?
Yeah. I started in Ohio and probably did it maybe like 6 or 7 times. My home club was the Funny Bone in Columbus, and then I stopped before I moved out to the day Bob Hope died, I had this. I've said this before a million times, but I did a Bob Hope joke the day he died, and the audience was a bunch of old people, and they booed and hissed at me, and I'm like, fuck this, I'm never doing this again.
Told a Bob Hope joke
Yeah.
to a bunch of Bob Hopes.
Well, it was like their mics out there. They never had anybody to go to the open mics, so there's a retirement home across the street, so they would come here and give them free tickets to a comedy show.
Oh my God.
And so when I came out, I was like, oh my God, there's the whole audience is old people. I shouldn't do this joke. And I decided to do it anyway. And man, they really did not like the
They
joke.
booed you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
they're
booed
all
and
next
hissed
to
me.
death and everything. Like,
Yeah.
Bob was younger than me.
And the joke had to do because we were like in, war. It was like after 9/11 and stuff like that. So like, so it had to do with the joke was, hey, did you guys hear Bob Hope died? And everyone's like, oh, and I was like, do you think they flew out his body to Iraq to entertain all the dead troops? And everyone was like,
Oh, that's out of the gate. Oh, God.
quick comedy.
I retired.
Yeah, and then it literally
I retired after the retirement community set. Yeah.
Then when I moved to LA, like maybe a year and a half or so after living out, Rogan kept on like, you need to go back to doing comedy. And then one day it was like a sold out show in Atlanta at the Punchline or wherever what it was. And he goes, you're going to open up the show. And I'm like, what? And he goes, do you have any of your jokes? And I'm like, no, this is before cell phones and stuff. And so I just went out and did it like 10 minutes and I got back into it. Then he started just throwing me in front of like sold out theaters and stuff. I pretty much did that spot, where he just, I was his opener. And then I started doing it was like Joey Diaz would open the show. Then I would be the middle and I had to follow Joey Diaz.
Oh my God.
And so many, I know
And
so
you're
many,
new?
so many comics hated it. I loved it because riding that wave was, I thought the easiest thing, like you were just set up for success, after that. But it was fun. I learned quick how to become a stand-up. It was like a cheat
Especially
code.
from those two guys.
Yeah.
So take us back to Columbus. So you start in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, I started in Columbus. I had a million jobs. I worked at movie theaters most of my life. I was like managers of movie theaters.
Were your parents, how long were they together?
Third grade. My parents, back then when they got a divorce, it was like no one even knew what a divorce was. I had never even heard the word before. And then
we were talking about that before the show because I was one of those kids. What your parents sat us down like, this is happening. And then I want to be like, there was like maybe one or two other girls at school that I was like, your parents, what is that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think I was one of the first, if not the only person that got divorced. And then when they go, well, you're going to live with your mom in an apartment, and my dad's going to live in this huge house, which made no sense to me. Yeah, the same house.
Okay.
So it made no. Looking back, it really made no sense. Like, why does Dad get like the huge house, and we're in this little apartment? I'm sharing a room with my sister. Like, I had to my bedroom growing up was like our like a dresser in between our two beds. Like, and I had to grow up with my sister.
And you said to me too when we were talking before, like, you didn't know what an apartment was either. I was the same way.
Yeah,
we went from a house where you thought you had this perfect family that was obviously falling apart under the roof, literally.
Yeah.
And then while my dad moves away because the house gets sold, he's got to go find a place to live. We go to an apartment with my mom, and I had no idea what a fucking apartment was. And our apartment, even looking back on this fucking thing, was a hallway with 3 rooms off of it, and it had a kitchen and a tiny ass little living room. But the whole thing wasn't longer than, this studio is fucking bigger than that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it would, like the apartments we stayed in, what's weird is because we had to switch school districts. And it was kind of cool because the school district we went to, both of them were great, but it's called Worthington. And very high end, very smart, everyone that went there, their parents are CEOs, of insurance companies and stuff. But they had one street. I think they legally had to do this for low income or something like that. So they had one street, and they built their first apartments in Ohio. I think. I don't think that. I'd never had seen apartments before. Like, it was a new thing back in the '80s, and we stayed there. And it was because it was such a young age, and because I was switching school districts. My parents and the teachers actually told my parents that I should go back a grade because they thought I was gonna, we don't know how he's gonna, react to this. And so it was interesting because I grew up always being the older person in my grade, which I'm glad now looking back that I did that. But
so you repeated third?
Yeah, third
like,
grade.
Do you remember doing that? Like, do you remember going, I know these answers? Do you
Yeah.
remember feeling like confident and like, I got that shit?
Absolutely. But I was not into school ever my whole life. So even though I had already knew all that, I still was like, I don't give a shit about any of this. Like I'm never going to do anything with math or whatever. So yeah, I slept mostly through school. Like I always had a hat. And I got really good at like putting my head like this, like, and then like my left hand would just be like a dead zombie hand that once in a while would move like I'm writing something. And my whole, like every grade I slept through.
And what was your relationship with your mom like living there?
Mom was great.
Close?
Yeah, mom was good. Everything was cool with my mom. It was weird growing up with two women though. Like I think that really sculpted me. Like I don't like sports.
What do you mean?
Know, like I never got into sports because
You mean your sister and your mom?
Yeah, my sister, my mom.
She didn't play either?
No, like so like I think because of that. That's why like in high school, I was not friends with many guys. I was friends with all the women though. Like, and my whole life I've always kind of geared towards hanging out with women more than men for some reason. And I think it's because my mom and my sister, because I'm more comfortable.
Right.
Like, women don't freak me out or I'm not shy or nervous around them. And so I think that really made me who I am today. Like,
and would you see your dad during that time?
Yeah, every weekend. Every weekend, we'd go to dad's, and then eventually.
Which is your old house?
Yeah, her old house.
You would go to your old room and hang with your dad?
I still have my own same room there that my dad probably used for prostitutes or something like that. Now looking back, like I thought salty sheets were like a thing.
Salty sheets.
No. But then I ended up moving in with my dad in high school, and so
did? Why?
I would because I was like, well, I can't live with my sister. I'm in high school. I'm gonna end up fucking my sisters.
One bedroom. Yeah, got it.
You know, so I ended up going back to my dad's house, and that was cool because I had my own room. My dad didn't care what time I came home at night, and I would come home at like 3 a.m, and like being a senior. I was allowed to have my girlfriend spend the night, you know, in high school.
I'm technically a freshman in college, Dad.
Yeah.
I got held back in third grade.
Dad, I'm 35, man.
Did your dad ever remarry or your mom ever remarry?
Yeah, both. But my dad remarried younger or first, and I've had a great stepmom most of my life.
So they stayed together.
Yeah, and then my mom ended up. My mom used to date a lot, which was interesting
what
growing
was that
up.
like?
It was very interesting because
dudes are coming over to this lady's 1-bedroom apartment with 2 kids.
Yeah,
in that room.
it was gross now. But she used to work for Wendy's growing up. So she was like an executive secretary for like Dave Thomas or something like that.
For real?
Yeah.
It's out of Ohio, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's right down. Yeah, it's in Dublin. And so growing up was cool because like we would always like. I would always visit my mom at work, and she would take me to the test kitchen where it's just like, hey, try all these new hamburgers and these things called chicken tenders. And
really?
You're like, what the heck is chicken tenders?
You got all that shit early.
And so we had stacks of free meals. So anytime we go to Wendy's, it was like anything we wanted for free. Every Christmas, they would have a Christmas party at the Wendy's headquarters, and Dave Thomas, the owner or creator of Wendy's, would dress up as Santa Claus. So I have a lot of pictures of me sitting on Dave Thomas's lap. And I knew Wendy, the real Wendy, growing up, which was cool. And then that.
So it is his daughter for real?
Oh, yeah. She was not the. She's in a few other commercials now. She's a bigger, older lady, but they had like a fake Wendy for a while, which is this hot young chick that was named Wendy in the commercials. That's not her, but it was very interesting because I always thought that I was like, "Whoa, Wendy's my friend." Oh, I never put the two together. Like, oh, that's Wendy from Wendy's. You know, it was very cool.
That's the Wendy.
That's the Wendy.
Yeah.
Jack Hanna, who's pretty known. He's the guy in charge of our zoo, and so we used to always go to zoo camp every year, which was.
You had Jack Hanna as the charge of the zoo.
Yeah, damn, he still is, and it's so like.
Is he really?
Yeah, so like, and we used to do this thing, zoo camp, where for like a week. You would just live at the zoo, and Jack Hanna would. Yeah, you'd sleep. You'd sleep at the zoo, like, and it was the craziest thing. Like,
I was gonna say, would you hear lions and shit roaring?
Oh, yeah,
I'd be like, get me the fuck out of here.
Scary as fuck. And then Jack Hanna would come out at night and be like, "Hey guys, I brought some pizzas," and you're like Jack Hanna was just like another person I just knew and didn't know that everybody. He was on David Letterman, like everyone knows him
all the time. Yeah.
And it was weird thinking like, hey, yeah, we spent the night at this zoo. That seems
And where
very
would you
weird.
sleep?
They would like put us in different like, where was it? It was like maybe their office building or something like that. It was just a big room. We would all have like sleeping bags and stuff. I think a few times they had us sleep in like one of the big buildings with all the like giraffes and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like it was. I just remember it was very hard to go to bed when there was noises like roars and
elephants and shit.
Yeah,
And he's got crazy animals. He doesn't have your basic shit.
Oh yeah. He has like albino penguins and shit.
He's got crazy shit.
But it was cool growing up in Columbus because we were a test market city. So we would have we had Chipotle before Chipotle was a thing, and they were like, oh, let's see if this works. It's owned by, I think Chipotle is owned by McDonald's.
Yeah, I thought so.
And we had like McPizzas before everyone's like, what's McPizza? But they would like try all these new things. There was one of my favorites. I don't even know if it got big enough.
So if you all liked it, the rest of the world got to have it?
Yeah, exactly. And 100%. Because I guess Columbus is considered the most average economy, everything. And there was one called, I don't know if it got out of Ohio, but it was called Sisters Chicken and Biscuits. It was Wendy's version of KFC. And instead of having an old man, it was just 3 old women. And it was awesome, but it didn't last. It didn't go out. And then there was a thing called Donato's Pizza, which is one of the best pizza places, I think, in the Midwest. And then McDonald's bought them. And they were going to make it nationwide pizza place. Then the stock market crashed or 9/11, and then they sold it back. And I was so pissed off.
Sold it back?
Yes, I was so pissed off because especially now I live here in California, I just want to eat that pizza, and now I can't. Whatever. Good story.
I'm old like you. I'm old enough, and I was just thinking I was just yelling, just joking around with my stepson. I was like, I've been here before chicken nuggets. And then I was like, when the fuck were chicken nuggets invented? At least McDonald's.
It was the 80s.
It was 83
I remember,
for McDonald's, it said. It was 83. But I don't know if somebody did that before McDonald's.
Right. Well, I remember
you probably had it in 82.
Wendy's, I remember that was one of the test kitchen things. And it was I think it was chicken tenders. Maybe it was their version of chicken nuggets. And I remember, what are these pieces of chicken? It's so delicious. But and it was weird being that age or growing up in the 80s and stuff like that, because we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have computers, and so we would do Goonie shit. There was an old penitentiary that was in downtown Columbus, and it closed, and it had been deserted for maybe 10 years, and it's falling apart. Me and my friends would ride our bike all the way downtown, which is the dumbest thing ever. I think it took 2 hours or something like that to get down.
One way?
Yeah.
God damn.
I mean, because we didn't have Lyfts or Ubers.
I think we're in Pennsylvania.
So we would ride, and it was we'd do it at 3 a.m. We'd be 16, and we found a little hole in the fence because the place was all fenced up. You're not supposed to go. A humongous penitentiary from the 1800s. And we found a hole, or we cut a hole. It would sneak in the middle of the night, 3 a.m, no cell phones, and there would be homeless people living in there and stuff like that. And I look back and I'm like, how dumb is that? One of those homeless people could have just fleshlight our faces, and we know we had no way to call for help. No one could hear you.
Nobody would hear you.
Yeah, no one would hear you because it's just miles of penitentiary. But it was so cool because we would have our little flashlights. And would go through the halls of the penitentiary. There would be parts where the floor is just falling through.
Are you scared to death while you're doing it?
Oh, it was like a horror movie. Dude. Every step we would hear noise, and we'd be like, ah! And the dumbest thing is we would go inside the prison cells and would shut it. And I'm thinking, why would we do
right. That thing gate's over.
Yeah, we all get locked in there. I can't believe it. But I think if I remember, they drilled it so no one can do that. All the locks. We saw where the electric chair was, and we sat in it. Yeah.
Oh, my. You sat in it?
Yeah.
I don't care if it's hooked up or not. I feel like some residual electricity.
I know.
Or
just piss stains and shit.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. You're right.
But it was,
So we used to do that in abandoned hospitals. We didn't have abandoned penitentiary, but I would have done that.
Hospitals have been crazy
Hospitals
too.
Creepy because everybody goes in and the moment you walk in, there's a long ass hallway with a pentagram and a fucking wheelchair. And we're like, let's go. I'm like, nah, we're going. And we would get the toe tags were still in the room.
Oh
yeah, dude.
That's my favorite thing in the world to do is go through abandoned stuff and videos. There's so many videos on YouTube of people doing that, and man, that's just crack to me. That and police chases, I could just watch that all day. So that's cool that I didn't know anyone else like explored and did abandoned stuff.
Hospitals.
Were you from New Orleans or
Maryland?
something?
Yeah,
Cool.
Baltimore originally, and we had some really like you know, Ohio. You still got those older buildings and
Right.
shit, the brick, and
Yeah.
it just as soon as it's dark and the moon hits it, it just looks fucking creepy as shit. You
Yeah.
know? And automatically scary in the dark. But I love that you would go through an old prison.
Yeah,
I would have done that.
And we also like dumb shit too. Like we would like go through like sneak in people's houses and stuff like that. But this was like when we were like 5th grade or 6th grade.
But
This
you
was
would
like
creep
even if
in?
we got caught, they'd be like, "Oh, that's adorable. Get out of my house," you know?
Right, yeah,
It wouldn't have
then.
been- yeah, or yeah, we would be raped again. But like I remember we heard that somebody had kittens like a house one street over from when we grew up. And so we like snuck in their garage door and went through their house and we saw them watching TV. And then one of the kittens came up and we took it outside. And we're like, let's just keep this kitten. And then we ended up like, no, we got to put it back. So we just put it in the garage and ran away. We don't even know if the kitten made it back inside. Like,
So growing up all right, so let's go back to high school.
Yeah.
You're with your dad. You don't play sports. You don't play
I played
anything.
like soccer when my parents were still together, like elementary school.
But do you
soccer,
get
but-
bullied? Are you
I
a
definitely,
cool
yeah, I
kid?
was bullied
all through school, or
mostly because I was an artist. Like I only painted and like drew things and played video games. I hung out. My friends was Akira. His name was Akira. He was from Japan, and his parents were like all worked for Honda or something. And I was his only friend, and like I didn't have many friends. Only had like 2 or 3 friends, and so like I would hang out with Akira. And what's cool is hanging out with Akira is that he would have shit before we had. So like when Nintendo, Super Mario's NES came out, he had that 2 years prior, or like a
2
year prior.
years?
Yeah, so we're playing this, and I'm already addicted. Like
you
no
guys
one
are
else
getting food and
Yeah.
games before
Yeah.
everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. And so when Nintendo came out, I was like already over. Like I already beat this like a million times, type shit. So it was cool hanging out with him. But we were all just nerds growing up. Like our biggest fun thing to do is taking a bag of Jolly Ranchers and a slingshot and hitting people with that, like out of our window, like when they walked by. And
Dude, we would have been friends, dude, because we used to do. We used to take the slingshot where one person would have put whatever. We used to do water balloons.
Yeah.
And then 2 people would hold it.
and do the.
And then you would let that motherfucker fly. And that
Do you ever do that? Do you ever do that at the Comedy Store? They used to do that every
off the
weekend.
roof?
Yeah.
No, I never did it there, but we would do it back home. But
Yeah.
but I knew just from a water balloon, like it could break a window. So a
yeah.
Jolly Rancher is like a rock.
Oh, I know.
coming
Looking
at
back,
you.
it's really
But
stupid.
One that the time when we finally we went, there was this old dude that my mom had cheated on my dad with, and we snuck down to his place one night, and he lived on this hill. So we got up on the hill, and we just I just let it fly toward the house.
Oh, yeah.
And then I heard the glass, and I was like, oh shit! And we all got in the car, took off.
Oh,
like,
fuck.
oh fuck! But we kept doing it, and one night, we're just such teenage fucking idiots. We decide we're way across the street, and we're gonna bomb 7-Eleven. So whenever anyone opens the door to go in or come out, we're trying to get them and in that store,
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I let this balloon go, and it's all in slow motion, and all of a sudden this old lady comes walking. I'm like, God,
Oh,
no,
no.
please, oh my God, it's gonna
gonna kill
crush
her.
her. It's the most accurate one I've
Right.
ever fucking let go.
Right.
And I mean, at the last second, old school metal antenna on a car
Oh,
sticking
no
up, and
shit.
it split it. So she
great.
got sprayed with water, but it would have.
I wonder what she thought it was. She probably had no idea what it was, too. She's like, Lord Jesus.
Well, we just got the fuck out of there because that's when everybody started looking over. Like what's
Yeah.
going on?
We
Those
did
things
gross
fire.
things too. It's so funny with like the kids don't do any of this shit anymore. Probably like we'd find like a dead bird. And remember those envelopes that you used to put your film in, and then
Oh yeah. You know what? I forgot about those till you just fucking said
we
that.
would put dead birds in there, put in people's mailboxes. They're like, oh, I got
my pictures back.
Can you imagine? That's the only
Vacation
problem.
pics are here.
And I remember this one time we put a bird in, and we did it. We did it to our friend's mom, Akira's mom, and we wanted Akira to open it up, and we even sat on it. The bird, like, would put it in the
Oh, my
envelope and put it in
God.
there, and we would like hide in the bushes across the street and wait for Akira to like get the mail. And then we just remember seeing his poor mom come out and just open it up and go, "What's this?" And open and go, "Oh!" And I just
my
remember it was like it haunts me to this day. There's 2 things that haunt me.
can still see it.
Yeah, that poor lady opening that up. And I threw a rock at a cardinal once. Like a cardinal was injured, and I was like, "Ew, gross!" And I threw a rock at it, and I just remember thinking like how horrible that was. Like I probably killed a bird, and I just felt like I still think about it all the time. Like,
well,
fucking
let me
killing
tell you
birds.
something. First of all, it's good that you think about it, and it bothers you.
It
and
bothers
two,
me.
that crippled cardinal got eaten by a fox or
Oh,
something.
yeah,
You don't got to
I
worry
know. I
about
put it
that
out
thing.
its
That's called prey.
Yeah,
that
I probably
thing's
put it
called
out
prey.
its misery.
So what kind of kids will pick on you? Were they the jocks? Were they neighborhood
it was mostly
kids,
the
older
jocks
kids?
or like it's so funny. It's totally like, just like The Simpsons or South Park. It's always like the poor, like his parents are divorced, the bullies and stuff. And looking back at it now, it's weird because like I'm Facebook friends with a lot of my bullies now.
Really?
And, yeah, because we had a very small school, and it's like it's so awesome. Like looking back and seeing what they're doing now, they're all like divorced. One's a cop, and I just think that's interesting.
Right.
I got revenge on my biggest bully though, and I did it by mistake. And it was so interesting to me because it's one of those things like that's just how the world works. So I used to troll a lot, and I had this thing. And this is maybe before MySpace or during I think it was during MySpace years. I used to have, when Listerine strips came out, like those little blue Listerine strips, I used to Photoshop like blue lips on a bunch of animals and be like, I gave 30 Listerine strips to a kitten,
right.
And then have like, and I would add a website called bluetorture.com. And I made up like fake, where people would send me photos like, oh, I gave 20 Listerine strips to my dog. And I've just put a little blue on their lip. Like it doesn't even make your lips blue. So,
At all,
but
right.
it still worked like to the point where PETA, like on their message boards had many threads about my website.
Really?
And like I was like, getting a lot of people like talking, like trying to get my website down and stuff. So then I decided to have this, like I found a picture on the internet of a box of puppies, and I'm like, we're having our first Blue Torture puppy party, and we're gonna have pizza. I have a box of puppies and over 200 Listerine strips that we can give to the dogs. And like looking back, it's like, who would do this?
Not only that, no dog's gonna eat those. You know what I mean? Like, and who would really fucking believe that?
Right. And so I made like a fake flyer, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put my bully's address on there. So if all those PETA people will go to his house, and so when I put that up on the message board, they're like, we're having a meeting. We're all going
They're
to
storming Area 51, bro.
Yeah. They're going to storm this guy's house.
For real.
For real.
This poor son of a bitch.
Yeah, I know, this poor guy. And it makes it a million times worse because what I didn't know for real is the guy, my bully, he sold drugs, and he got arrested or something happened where he wasn't at his house, and he left his dog there for a week inside of his house with no food and water or something like that. And that same day, like it was on the news where the neighbors called the police, and like this man, we're here outside the home of so and so. He left his dog here, and the conditions, and they were showing inside of his house. That was the same day where all the protesters came through that. I swear to God.
So that's on news too?
They didn't show the part, but I remember going on the message board going, we got there were the police there. They already caught him. I think they thought maybe they busted them already or something.
They got, yeah.
But that dude, like,
That
I don't think he
hilarious.
knows. Like, he was all over the news. He got in a lot of trouble, and he had a gang of maybe like 30 protesters there, and on something completely different.
Right. You imagine if you walk outside your house, there's people yelling about giving Listerine strips.
Yeah,
What the fuck you all talking
it's
about?
so
My dog's got black lips.
But I did get in trouble from MySpace because I made a video for the website, because when I put that flyer out, I was like, I want more protests. I want this to be the biggest thing ever. So I made a video where I just took a Listerine strip and I put a snail on top of it and filmed the whole thing and sped it up. Because fun fact, if you guys have a snail sitting around, Listerine strips make them start foaming up, and they start melting into a blob. Like whatever.
Really?
It was the grossest thing ever.
How the hell did you figure that out?
I didn't know that was going to happen. I thought it was just going to be, because I knew like if you threw salt, like we used to always put salt on snails and worms and shit, it would freak out.
Yeah.
So I was like, it has to do something. So I just filmed it, and it just started foaming up and melting.
And MySpace got on you?
Oh, MySpace got so pissed. Like, you can't show that's, that's whatever, torture or something. But
It's escargot, motherfucker.
I know, it's a snail. I could have stepped on it. But that really, like, it set PETA off like crazy. That snail video, like, they used to pass that around and stuff like that.
Really? They're passing it around and sharing it?
Yeah.
Let's take a quick break and tell you about our sponsor, MyBookie.com. It's a new season. AB's on the Raiders, LB's with the Jets, ODB's in Cleveland, and the AFC North champs, the Baltimore Ravens, are still right there too, everybody. And the one thing that hasn't changed is where I'm putting my money down on all the games. MyBookie is the place to bet on football every weekend. MyBookie has better bonuses and more prop bets than any other sports book, period. This year, they're hosting the first online handicap and super contest. First place is guaranteed to win at least $100,000. That's a lot of money, and it only costs $100 to enter. All you have to do is pick 5 NFL games against the spread every week to climb the leaderboard and score your share of the huge cash prize pool. I would only recommend a service to my listeners that's been good to me, and that's why MyBookie is always the right play. You bet, you win, they pay. MyBookie has live in-game betting on every NFL game. They've got the most rewarding player perks in the business. And for you fantasy guys and girls out there, you can even bet the over-under on how many fantasy points a player will score each game. Up to $1,000 first deposit bonus. Double your first deposit. Use promo code HoneyDew to activate the offer. Visit MyBookie online today. That's MyBookie. And don't forget to use the promo code HoneyDew when creating your account to claim the bonus. Bet, win, get paid. Visit MyBookie online today and use promo code HoneyDew to claim your bonus today. Now back to the show.
I used to do a lot of trolls, though. Like, I have another website called letsfindjesus.com. I think that's still up, where it just trolled like religious people and stuff like that. But I would like sell things on it, like a painting of a black Jesus stealing a baby and stuff like that. And like, because back then they hated black Jesus. Like, especially 10 years ago, 13 years ago, whenever I made
they still hate black Jesus.
But I really pushed the black Jesus shit on people, and I think I used to sell like barbershop hair, like.
From Jerusalem.
I forget what it was. And then made a bunch of
from one of Jesus's haircuts. Those people got everything they fucking deserved to get.
It was it's so
believe
funny.
that's Jesus' hair from a Nazareth haircut.
Yeah. And it was so funny because I did have animal control call me up on the Blue Torture thing. Like somehow they got my number, or they came to my house and they left a note. They left a note because they found out who I was and where I lived somehow. And they left a note on my door, and then they said, please call us as soon as you can. And I don't know if it was about Blue Torture or not. It was about another troll I did. And I called, and I filmed the phone call. Well, and I think it's online somewhere still, but it's the guy goes, well, we got a report here that you blah, blah, are doing something. And then I'm like, oh, that's just a troll. I'm just trolling somebody. He goes, trolling? Like, this is before trolling was, I guess, more common. He goes, you know what that means, right? And I'm like, well, playing a joke. And he goes, that's not what it means, man. It means chasing guys. And I'm like, I've never heard that.
Me either.
I think that's the original,
Guess who was trolling?
Yeah,
that dude.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what that means.
Oh yeah, he seemed like
fuck yeah. I've never heard that. If anything, it would sound to me like a dude chasing after ladies.
Yeah,
but not. Or I guess you could be trolling.
He said it was trolling for guys.
I guess that's.
I would love to know if that's. I don't think I ever looked it up.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, I never looked it up either. But he said the recording was so funny. He goes, well, I guess that's a pretty funny joke, and so we're just going. I'll let you be.
He liked it.
Yeah,
he's animal control.
He's like, but if I ever need to come over and check on the welfare of your cat, everything's. And I'm like, yeah, come anytime. He goes, all right then. I'm just going to write this off as a joke. The video is hilarious. I'll try to find it and post it again somewhere, but it's pretty funny.
Now, were you doing that sort of stuff to your bullies back in the day? Like,
yeah,
trolling
so
back then
was
what?
Our nerd squad would we would do a lot like but it was all like we didn't have computers, so their trolling would be like would find a tack and put it on the seat of one of the kids, and they would sit on it and be like and shit like that. One time, this is all right. So I don't know if they still do this anymore, but we used to in middle school dissect cow eyeballs. Like we would all have an eyeball.
Oh,
and
did we? We did frogs and
hearts,
worms. We did a
heart.
Heart wasn't until high school, I think. But we might have done an eyeball for something.
Yeah, cow eyes is what we used to do. And I remember one of our bullies, his locker was right next to mine, so I knew his combo. And so one time, I was like, I'm going to put both of these eyeballs, like I stole 2 cow eyeballs and put it in his locker. And I put it so like right when you open it up, it looks like it's looking at you. I didn't know he had chicken pox. I didn't know he had chicken pox. So he was out of school for a week. One day at school, we got there and they were like, everybody, we need to meet outside. The fire department's here. There's a smell. Like they thought there was a dead body or something like that. They're going through everybody's lockers. They go through the locker. They find, I can't even imagine what they looked or smelled like.
A week later.
Oh. It was like, I think I did it like on a Thursday, and then Friday he wasn't there. And this was like Monday or something. They got in and it smelled like death in there. And they finally found it. The kid got suspended because they thought he did it or something like that. Yes. I think he got suspended or he got detention or something like that. I can't remember.
But it went on him.
But what was great is that we didn't, like, all of us were sitting outside for maybe like a couple hours. I remember we didn't have school for like a half time. Day. So it was pretty cool for that.
I've been saw what you did. Yeah. We all saw it.
Yeah, and then we would do like shit like that.
Did it ever escalate into fights? Did you get in a lot of fights?
No, I've only been in 2 fights my whole life, and it was with my bully, one of my bullies. The first one, I beat the shit out of him. And
you did?
Yeah, and it was one of those things where I'm on top of him, just fucking ground and pound, you know, and he would be crying, and he's just like, please stop. And then I would
Christmas story.
Yeah, and then I get up though, and then he starts coming after me again. I'm like, dude, I got off, you know. And then I knocked him down again and started, and then he was just a mess. And then a year later.
Did it end?
The second time,
it took another
No. For a year, he left me alone. And then when I was a freshman in high school, we were going down the hallway, and he like kicked the back of my foot or something like that. And he goes, meet me outside at lunch or something like that. And I'm like, oh God, he's probably been training, you know. Right. He's probably been doing like hula hoops in his backyard or something like that, whatever we used to train. And I beat the shit out of him the second time. And I remember that second time, you left me alone forever because that second time was like, you didn't learn the first time.
Yeah.
Haven't been in a fight since.
So 2 fights with the same person.
Same person.
2 fights you've ever had.
Yeah.
Good for you. You beat your bully.
Yeah. I'm really good at not getting out of fights I never get to that point of fighting. Like I've had people try to fight me a few times.
What do you do? Just use your humor?
No, I just go, dude, get away from me. I'm not going to fight. You know, like
I'm in my 40s. Bro.
Yeah. One guy, like maybe 3 years ago, he was like fucking with my girl, and I told him, I was like, get the fuck away from me, dude. You know, you stop, leave my girl alone, and blah, 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 at the Comedy Store. And then out of nowhere, when I'm walking to the bathroom,
that's a wrong move.
He runs around me, punches me square in the face.
At the store?
At the Comedy Store.
Did anybody see this?
Oh, yeah. And I was like, did you just punch me? And then I just like grabbed him, threw him against the wall, and then it was broken up. But that dude's banned now. But that's that's the only other time I've ever. I got punched, but I didn't.
God damn, that's a wrong. I mean, between Rogan, Callan, Diaz, and Simone with all their jujitsu and UFC shit, they would have killed that.
Oh yeah, it was broken up pretty quick. But the guy, obviously, I could have probably beat him up because he punched me. I didn't even feel like it was like, what did you like? I didn't even know what happened. I was like, what the fuck? Like I thought maybe like a football, somebody threw a football or something, and then hit me in the face.
So growing up, I asked you about acting out and stuff, and sort of how it played out. And you said you did get caught shoplifting.
I did.
But were you doing it for a while before you got caught?
Yeah, no. when Nintendo came out, I had no money. I was pretty broke. This was probably when I was like, I'd say 14, 15. Stores didn't have cameras and shit like that. They usually had one security guard. There was a place called Service Merchandise. It's out of business now. And they had video games. And back then, video games, they didn't know what they were. So they would just put them on the shelf. Now they're behind like glass cases, like a Gillette sensor blade or something. But so we would just take like 4 of them, put them down our pants, and then every day. And we couldn't bring them home though because our parents.
Now, was that the square gray one?
Square, yeah, square. Yeah. And we would just put the boxes, like we'd wear baggy clothes, put it in our waistband, but we couldn't bring them home because our parents would be like, "Where are you getting all these video games?" So we had to slowly dilute the games. So what we do is outside of the place. This is the dumbest thing ever because we didn't like go down the street or anything. They had a tree and like mulch and stuff like that, and we dug a hole and we put all the games in there. And then, and then one by one we'd like take one home, and we had like the shoot. At one point, I think we had like 20 games in a hole outside of the store. We stole that. We didn't even like go down the street or anything like dumbasses. And then CDs came out, and then we were like, my dad bought me a CD player for my birthday, and he only bought me 1 CD, and I was like, I want more, but they were like, we had no money
back then.
Yeah, so I was like, thanks, Dad. I can't afford CDs. You're going to give me 1 CD, So then we started stealing CDs, and I remember it was
easy before they got that long.
Yeah,
remember that long plastic?
That long
thing?
plastic thing. This was before that. This is when they just we'll just put them on the shelf. We know, like, and I remember that I had Ghostbusters 2, Paulo Abdul, and. Something else. It was 3 CDs. I just remember being like, I got in trouble with the gayest CDs ever. Like who?
Color Me Bad was that one?
It was something worse. It was something like Paula Abdul, maybe
Milli Vanilli.
Maybe it was Milli Vanilli or something like that. But I remember when we were walking out, I just remember just that me and my friend, like a hand on my shoulder, and then like me and my friend got put in this like it was at Myers, and they took us into a room, and then his parents came first. And his dad was really scary, like this big, tall Italian guy. And I remember him just looking at us like that. And that freaked me out. I never shoplifted again after that because it was like the only time I ever got in trouble with outside of school where I was like, holy shit, this is real. Like I thought I was going to jail, even though I was like only 14 or so.
Right.
So after that, never stole again, never shoplifted again. And it's weird, that really stuck with me to the point where like if I'm at a store, like I remember Joey Diaz used to like we'd be at an airport and he would just like take like the stores that where you get the neck pillows. He'd be like, oh, gummy bears, and he's just like he's just stealing shit. And I think he does it because like if you just act like you're just hanging out, like no one's like if you act sketchy, somebody's going, what's wrong with that guy? But if you're just like big guy, just like whatever. And I remember just like having panic attacks, being with him, like you just stole gummy bears, like like
you just grab them and go.
Yeah, so I'm glad it happened at a young. There's like a lot of things like I'm glad it happened at a young age.
You seem like you just fucked around. You didn't really.
Yeah.
But have you ever been arrested?
Yeah, I was later in life. I think I was like 28.
What happened?
I did.
You're still in Ohio then, right?
Yeah. I was a manager of a movie theater. And one of my employees, I think she was an employee, maybe not. I used to date this girl, and we dated for maybe 2 years. And she was like from a different school district. But this is older. This wasn't in high school. But she, we didn't grow up anywhere near each other. And she was the school slut, I guess. Like there was that one girl that just fucked everybody. But she had huge tits and. I didn't know that. All I knew that she had nice tits, and so we dated. But she was an alcoholic. Like her mom was an alcoholic. Her sister, the whole house, they just got drunk. Like it was one of those where the mom invites all the kids over to drink, type person.
The cool parent.
Yeah.
It's that motherfucking cool parent.
Yeah,
you got to worry about.
But I didn't know that she was always this girl was always a troubled person. And when I dated her, we broke up. It was one of those where you break up every 2 months and then get back together, break up 2 months. And then it just got too crazy. So I ended it. I'm like, we're done. And then for maybe like 6 months, she was freaking out. Like she was trying to get me back. She would like show up at my work.
I was going to say, were you still working together at that point?
No, at that point.
So she'd show up.
Yeah, she would just show up. I think I got a different job because of her. I think I ended up moving or just quitting my job and going somewhere else just because it was getting a little psychotic. And then I don't know why I did this. It was my sister's birthday. And it was near, I remember I think it was Martin Luther King weekend or like the holiday weekend. And my sister was having a party, and I hadn't talked to this girl in a while. I had been single this whole time, and I was like, you know what? I wonder if whatever happened to my ex. I wonder if she's okay.
How long at the time then?
I would probably say I hadn't talked to her in maybe like 3 months or 2 months or something like that. And I was like, and I remember I called her. I was like, hey, it's Brian. Just, checking in, seeing how you're doing. And then we ended up talking for like a half hour and everything. And then she's like, what are you doing tonight? And I'm like, I'm going to go to a bar, and my sister's birthday. She's having people at this bar. She's like, oh, I want to stop by and say hi. And I'm like, all right, fine. So she actually drove, what was it? Oh, she drove to there, and we met at the bar. Everything was fine. She got crazy wasted, and then when it time to go home, she's like, I'm too drunk to drive. Can I crash at your house? And I'm just like, well, maybe I could play with those tits one last time, So we get to, I get to my house, and she started drinking more at my house, and then I got blackout. I want you back, like crazy shit. She
super emotional.
Yeah. And then I was like, you got to get out of my house. Like she started like really yelling and stuff like that. Then she started breaking. Like she's like, I bought you this. I forget what it was. It was a poster or something like that, but it was like in a glass frame. And she tore it off my wall and threw it at me and broke it. And then I was like, that's it. Get the fuck out of my house. You're destroying my house. And then she wouldn't get out of my house. And then I remember I had to like push her out the front door. Like I opened my door. I was like, get the fuck out of my house. Shut the door. I went upstairs. I didn't even think like, oh, she doesn't have her car here. I was like, I don't care. You find a way home. Because she had not only broken that, she like kicked my refrigerator, made a dent in my refrigerator. Like she started just tearing up my house. And I went to bed and I passed out. Next morning, I wake up and I remember I was hungover. My answering machine was like flashing, and I remember I press play, and it's her crying and like answer the door, pick up, blah blah blah. And I guess she must have been ringing my doorbell. I was passed out, and then my knock on my front door, and I opened it up. It's 2 cops, and they're like, Brian, and I'm like, yeah. And he goes, damn, we wish you wouldn't have answered the door. Sorry, man, we're gonna have to arrest you for domestic violence, assault, and unlawful restraint. Unlawful restraint because I didn't drive her home.
You moved her outside.
I didn't drive her home, so that's almost like a form of kidnapping. Like, hey, you
said she could come here, and you didn't take her home. Why does somebody have to be responsible for getting somebody else home if they want to come to your house?
I don't know. And they so they cuffed me, and they were like, and I was trying to tell him like, look, she tore up the place, and he goes, sorry, man, we believe you. He's like she ended up walking down the street drunk last night, and a woman cop pulled her over. And she said that you guys got in a fight and you pushed her out the door and blah, blah, blah. And since the O.J. Simpson trial and all that stuff, we have a new law. It's called, they nickname it the O.J. law, where that it's pretty much if a woman says you pushed her, we have to arrest you and figure it out later. And they nicknamed it the O.J. Simpson law. And because for domestic violence and stuff. So like if a woman just goes through a phone book,
I mean they know OJ did more than just ask somebody to leave a door. Right?
But I think
OJ wasn't like, I just want you to get the fuck out.
But I think
here.
there was problems beforehand, shit like that. So now like he was telling me, he's like, you could just pick a woman could pick a random name in a phone book and say they hit her and we have to arrest.
And they'll go arrest and then figure it out later.
Yeah. And that goes both ways, by the way. If a guy says a girl hit,
really?
Nowadays. So I remember I went to jail, and it was like, I think it's Thursday morning, and like it was overcrowded or something like that, and I couldn't get in court to see a judge Friday, so I had to stay there the whole weekend. So I was there from Thursday, and then Monday was like Martin Luther King Day, and I didn't get out till Tuesday.
Yeah,
and I mean, and the only thing I've ever done was got caught shoplifting. So it was overcrowded. It was just...
Was it scary?
It was scary as fuck.
Why?
Because it was mostly Well, it was like a room this size. It was very small. There was only 3 beds, and there was probably maybe 100 people. And
Damn.
And it was all like drunk
I was gonna say,
drivers,
a lot of
domestic
drunks.
violence. There was few like gang member type people there, and there was nowhere to lay. So I remember I stole a toilet paper roll and used it as a pillow, and I hid it at night behind the trash can, and that would be my pillow. That's how bad it was. And I finally get out. My mom bailed me out.
You had no problems in there, no fights.
No
just kept
fights.
you
It was
mind your
actually pretty
business?
chill, and everyone was in the same situation, kind of shit. They did have one TV so we just watched Oprah all day or whatever it was.
Oprah,
Yeah,
really?
it was something like that.
So full of dudes watching Oprah.
It was something stupid. It was like Oprah on repeat or something. And then I ended up having to go to court and get a lawyer, and then we had to like do all this shit. I had to go to like a psychiatrist. This was a fucked up thing. Like they make you go to a psychiatrist, like to prove that you're not like a crazy person. I get there and I'm talking to a psychiatrist, and then at the end he goes, well, I'm going to have to end this right now, and we're going to have to switch you with somebody else in my office because I actually graduated with your ex, and I just realized it. And so my partner's going to take over. So then this other guy comes in and finishes the interview stuff, and then in court they were like, yes, he's very crazy. You can't be controlled because he knew her in high school. And so he wrote it as if I was a bad person because he knew me. So I had to then spend money again, go to two other psychiatrists, 2 different ones, to show that, hey, that's not fair. He went to high school. He wrote it bad on purpose. And then both of these 2 other psychiatrists are like, no, he's fine. Everything's cool. He's a normal guy. Then there was, I think I went to court maybe 11 or 12 times. She didn't
11 or 12 times?
She didn't even pick up the charges. Like, she didn't want anything to do with it. The state picked it up. The prosecutor.
I learned that.
Yes.
That even because a lot of times women are scared and they don't want them to retaliate.
Exactly.
So then they'll say, you can drop the charges, but we're going to carry it forward.
Exactly. Anyways, after like 11 or 12 times, it came out that there was nothing done. She destroyed my house. I have pictures of all that. She actually, when I was pushing her out, she actually hit me with the face, and I had like a bruise. She had no bruises, and I had actual bruise. Like in my mugshot, you could actually see a bruise on my eye. She had 0 bruises because I only just like did that, and ended up they dropped all the charges. And then the day they dropped charges, I remember going home and going, "What the fuck? I just spent like $20,000." That I don't have to pay back my mom. And then she calls me. She goes, Brian, I'm so sorry that all that happened.
How long did all that take?
I would say like 7 months, something like that.
And then you haven't talked at all.
I saw her in court. She wasn't allowed to talk to me. And then when they dropped all the charges, she called me and she wanted to hang out that night. And I was like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Don't ever fucking talk to me again. We are dead together. She ended up dating a military guy and moved to overseas somewhere. So she's now like not even in the United States anymore. She's gone for good. And so yeah, that really changed. That whole thing changed my life though. When it came to women, I was scared of them. Like I was like, I didn't know that was possible. To get that much deep, go to jail. So like I'd be one of those guys that if I was in a relationship, the second a girl starts yelling at me, I would secretly just turn on my voice memos on my phone, put it on the table. I would do all these little things. Like I had security cameras now. Like I will have like a security camera that I would like tilt towards the living room, if something goes on. And it's helped me actually a lot. Like there's 2 other times that it could have gone bad where I was like, dude, I have you on video right here, or I have you on tape,
Right.
So it's kind of sad, that I became that, but it's helped me out so much. And that's why, like, if you have a bad relationship, if you're in a bad relationship,
Just get the fuck out.
Get the fuck out, number one, but always cover your ass, because just watch Live PD or Cops. You'll see how many times, it's just bad people. And if you're around a bad person, they'll turn on you, and it's going to cost you $20,000. But
it happened to a friend of mine. He and his daughter's mom, they were arguing, and she started punching him, hitting him. And then she called the police, and the police show up, and they put him in one room and her in another room. And they interview him first, and he's like, We were arguing. She got all pissed off at me. They said, did you cuss at her? He said, no, I didn't cuss at her at all. Did you yell at her? I didn't yell at her at all. Did you touch her? I did not touch her. She hit me. She's the one cussing and yelling and hit me, and she called you.
Yeah.
So they interview her. Did he cuss at you? No, he didn't. Did he hit you? No, he didn't. Did he yell at? No. And they go, but you hit him? She goes, I did. And they go, well, ma'am, we have to take you to jail.
Yeah.
He did nothing wrong. You called the police. So she ended up calling the police on herself. She had to have court supervised visits with her kids.
Yep.
Like, they took her right to jail because they said, like, and he was like, look, that's not necessary. He did the same thing. It's not necessary.
Right.
Like, no,
Yeah.
you can drop the charges if you want.
Yeah.
We're taking her. And they did. And then they pressed charges against her. And he dropped everything, but the state just kept doing it.
Yeah. And it really, and the female cop that picked up my ex, like, she was the one really, like, that really pushed the prosecutors, like, no, you should have saw her. She was crying. She was on the road, stranded by herself. He pushed her out the door. It was just such a perfect storm of bad stuff. But I'm so lucky now, though, because I'm dating somebody.
Wait, when she called you, there's nothing you could do with that information that could get you your money back or any of the fucking shit.
You know,
like,
I looking back, it seems like, I should have done something. Like, the fact that she called me.
Yeah, and then wanted to hang out.
Yeah, but you know what? I think she the whole time was against it also.
I see.
You know what I mean? Like, she constantly was telling them.
doing this.
Yeah,
Gotcha. I got it.
But it would have been nice to have like phone records and try to countersue or something like that. Because I mean, that took me years to pay that back. Especially because I was making like $10 an hour or something like that. But it sucked. But I'm so lucky now though, because the girl I'm dating now, like, we've been dating for 3 years and we haven't had any kind of fight that even resembles a normal fight. Like, she says, oh no, we fight once in a while. And I'm like, but it's so adorable. She's like, remember when you left the macaroni cheese out? And I was like, Brian, stop. And I'm like, that's not a fight.
I'll take that shit all day.
Yeah.
long.
So now I'm like living in paradise, man. It's like the first time in a long time where I'm not paranoid or scared that something bad's going to happen or anything.
I want to go back to something that you had mentioned off mic before we started talking about. Maybe it was being babysat.
Oh yeah.
So talk to me about, like, how old are you and what happens? Who's watching you?
So after my parents were, was this when my parents were divorced? I think so. Yeah, I think so. Maybe it was like third grade, right before they were divorced. We had, so I don't know, but if you played doctor with all the kids in your neighborhood, like, we had, me and my friend had 3 of the hottest girls in our school living on our street. Like, they ended up being like the prom queen, the head cheerleader, but we were just lucky that we grew up on the same street as them. But when we were younger, we would invite them all to my friend. He had a ping pong table, and would go underneath the ping pong table, and we'd play doctor.
And you were what, like 9 or 10?
I would say like, yeah.
Okay.
I would say something like that. And we ended up doing this like a lot though, like maybe once a month. So one of them had an older sister that was super hot, and she was my babysitter. And for some reason, I thought, because they were related, like, oh, this girl wants it too. And I remember she was my baby, like, I think she was like 16, hot blonde chick. And I remember one thing I always said, like, can we make a fort? And she'd be like laying on the couch with her legs kind of like bent up and with a blanket over her. And I would put my head on her crotch like a pillow. And I would just sit there and just start like pushing back, a little on her crotch. And then I remember she would like take my head and just start humping the back of my head.
What the fuck was going on in your neighborhood, dude? Good God.
And like, I didn't know, like, she was probably just straight up masturbating, but she would like just hump the shit out of me. And I remember I got, even like one time I went up and touched her boob, but it was on the outside. And she would just like do that all the time. And, now she's like, she's married with kids and stuff like. And I remember, like, I've said this a few times on stage before, and this is 100% true. I was so wasted once when Facebook first came out, and I found her, and then I was like, I want to know what she looks like. I want to know what she looks like. I want to know, if she's still hot as fuck. And I just, in my head, I just had this memory, and I just remember being blackout wasted, and I found her. And she was married with kids, and I remember I just wrote, I hope you babysit your kids as good as you babysat me.
Oh my God, dude. You are the ever troll. Did she respond?
No, but she liked it.
Liked it? Like, I got my youngest in a neck brace right now. It's grinding on the back of his head.
Old stinky neck.
Good God.
But it did one of those things.
All that fast food drove you all nuts. All that test food.
But man, that feeling though, that when I woke up the next day and I'm like, what did I do last night? I'm like, oh my God, no, wait, the babysitter. No, wait, I wrote something. Oh my God, no. And I remember like going, like logging on. And I was like scared, like, oh, she just liked it. Wait, that's fucked up. You know?
That is fucked up.
But I was so scared, like she was gonna write me a letter. So she never said anything.
How's your relationship? Are your mom and dad still alive? Mm-hmm. How are your relationship with them?
Great.
Now?
Everything's great.
Both?
Yeah. My dad, he's an engineer. He's tried to retire. Like, he's one of those guys that he's tried to retire for the last 10 years.
Is he in Ohio?
Yeah. And he's just such a smart guy that they keep on going, please, we don't have anyone like you. Our whole company will go under. So now they let him like just work from home. He doesn't even have to do anything, and he's getting paid like retarded amounts of money. My mom retired a long time ago.
What'd she do?
She just worked at Wendy's and like executive secretary type stuff. And then she ended up retiring and marrying a guy that owned an architect firm, and he owned one of the biggest architect firms in Ohio. They built churches and most of the schools and stuff like that.
Wow.
I used to work for him
He's a good dude.
when I was in college.
You like him?
Yeah.
You get along?
Very
good.
straight edge, farmer type guy. And I remember in college, when they met, he's like, you could work for me at the architect. And I was like, okay. And so I'd like go on acid and go to work.
Would you really?
Yeah, because they just left me alone because I was the boss's,
What's that like to be on acid?
Oh, it was the worst, dude. If you've ever been in an architect firm, it is just this silence that it's just creepy. And this was mostly before a lot of people used computers. It was a lot of just people doing it by hand, like drafting by hand. I would have to take these big blueprints and get them printed at this company. But it was so quiet and peaceful that like you would just sit there and you couldn't even stay awake. Like it was just like, so what I would do is I would always I would try things like acid and I used to use acid a lot. Like in college, I would like go to work all the time on acid. Like when I worked at Ticketmaster, I remember I used to always have to go like, thanks for calling Ticketmaster, where American Express is the preferred method of payment. This call may be monitored for quality purposes by a supervisor. This is Brian speaking. But I used to have to do that like over and over, like just every 10 seconds, 30 seconds. And I remember when I was acid, I couldn't remember it. So I'd be like, hey, this is Brian, Ticketmaster. Don't do anything. Hi.
What have your parents come to see you do comedy?
No, my dad has. When I used to open up for Rogan all the time, there was a theater that's a humongous theater in Columbus, Ohio, like where you would go see the Nutcracker and shit like that. And so when I opened up for him there, I was like, this is pretty cool, Dad. You might want to don't judge me. My mom, I would never let. She's a very good girl, religious. Like if she would faint if
I know I've seen a set, so I know.
Yeah, she would faint if I.
She would.
Yeah.
She doesn't watch any of the podcasts.
No, I don't.
I
like no. Luckily, one of the best things I did is early on I started going by the name Redban instead of my last name Reichel. And so, like, she doesn't even know about the Redban part, so she's probably like, "Oh, I wonder what Brian's doing. Oh, look at that." I have fake Facebook pages and stuff with my real name, and like it's just like a picture of me in a waterfall. And every couple months, like I'll post a picture of a frog and be like, "I love frogs," and like stupid shit like that. And she's like, "Oh, he's such a good guy. He's out there looking at frogs." Yeah. So no, they don't. I think my dad just recently got it
at all.
Yeah, they're cool.
That's
like
cool.
My sister has nephews now, and so they share. They all see each other.
Well, you have nephews.
Well, I have nephews.
Your sister has kids.
She has kids. That's all I need. Nephews is good enough for me.
Do you want kids?
At a point, I did. But when you live in LA, you have to get to a certain point. Like I can't have kids now. Like I've lived in the same place for 13 years. If I have a kid, the kid's gonna find the cocaine I lost 6 years ago. Yummy, feel good on TV. So like, yeah, I think if I was a little better off, like if I had a house and lived somewhere nice, maybe. But having a kid in Los Angeles is already crazy, in my opinion. And two, that I think you have to be at a certain level of comfortable. Yeah. Like I'm bad with money. I'll buy things blackout drunk in the middle of the night and be like, oh, I got a Tesla last night.
Well, you're the reason I know that Tesla does that whole fucking light show.
Oh, yeah.
Does yours have it?
Yeah.
But I read somewhere that they're like, that's sort of an Easter egg.
Yeah, but
they're not in all of them though, all right?
No, they are. No. Only the one with the Falcon doors.
Okay, that's the one that does it.
Because that's the only one that does it. But yeah. He releases Easter eggs all the time with sort of like little secret things you can do.
But since it's computer, you can go get that Easter egg and then make your car do that, or it's just
it's
in
there.
factory
You could find it. Yeah, it's like little hidden secrets. Yeah, it's pretty cool. He does so many cool things. Like he just added like 10 art. You could play Atari on it now. Like
for real?
Yeah, you could surf the internet. It's one of the coolest things ever. And I'm glad I love it.
It's different driving it though, from what I hear, right?
It's like not, Tron.
You have to learn how to drive it.
No. It's so fast and so crazy that it's so like different than a regular car because there's no gears and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's just on off, and so like when you're like in traffic, you can go around cars, like zoom up past them, go over, like it's kind of like you're playing Tron. It makes cars seem dumb. Like I have a Civic also, and when I am in my Civic, I'm like, oh my god, this is like having a cell phone and then going back to a beeper. It kind of ruins cars for you because it's so crazy fast and good that it's when you go into a car, it seems antique, like a caveman. Shit. Like,
well, you're doing great, dude.
Yeah, but that's how irresponsible. Like, if I can't have a kid and being like, coming home drunk, buying a Tesla in the middle of the night. And
dude, the people I know that don't have kids have shit like boats.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they're
that's true.
They spend it on that kind of stuff.
But it's crazy. Like I was saving up money for a while because I was thinking of buying a house. So I've been saving up for a while, and then recently I was like, no, it's silly to buy a house in LA. I'd rather buy a house in Ohio, or something. So that's why I bought a Tesla. I was like, I saved up all this money. Now I'm not going to use it. I'll buy a Tesla, Right. But that's so irresponsible, and I've always been like that, like really bad with money my whole life. Because they didn't teach, I'm sure they teach credit cards and shit in high school now.
I hope they do, because I remember being in 7th grade, we had a math teacher teach us how to write checks. But that's all they taught you, how to write it and how to balance your checkbook.
Oh, yeah,
they never taught you the responsibility of money.
Yeah.
And I didn't get my first credit card until I was in college, and that's when most people get them because you fucking need it.
Right.
But they don't teach you about interest and how to pay it back and all that shit.
And it was crazy because I was a little older because I got held back. So when I was in high school, I got a credit card. And I remember I got approved.
Did you?
Yeah, I got approved for, it was $1,000 maybe. And no, I think it was $1,000. And I was like, wait, so I could buy anything and pay it back later? That's awesome. But I had no idea how to use a credit card. And I remember I went to Sears and I saw a Laserdisc player. And I'm like, what? Laserdisc player? $900? I can buy that. Maxed my credit card on one purchase, bought a Laserdisc player. And the only reason it was $900 because it was on clearance because they stopped making Laserdisc. Like literally... we didn't have internet or news back then, so I had no idea Laserdiscs were bombed.
We didn't have news.
So they didn't talk about Laserdisc players on the news. And so literally the day I bought it, maxed out my credit card, then Laserdisc went under. And then I still have it. It's brand new, dude. It's like mint.
You still have it?
Yeah.
Do you really?
Yeah, and I remember one of my best things is Roger Rabbit. I got Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And in the Laserdisc editions, the only thing that has when Jessica Rabbit falls out of a car, there's like a brief couple seconds you can see her crotch. And they cut it out of all the versions except the Laserdisc version. So that's the only reason
no one was seeing it. You have the copy.
The only reason I kept my Laserdisc player so one day I could put it, go, oh, I can see your crotch. No one else can. So stupid. I could just look at a photo on the internet,
So, yeah, I was going to say, it's probably out there.
Yeah,
right?
It's probably out there now.
Well, dude, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you, buddy.
on, man. I appreciate you opening up about your past.
Definitely.
Will you please one more time promote whatever you'd like?
Deathsquad.tv. That has everything. Tour dates. San Diego, August 17th with George Perez and Aiko Tanaka. Oh, every first and third Friday, I do the Ice House. We do a show with like 9 comics. It's just 9 comics from a lot of people know them from like Kill Tony or all the Death Squad podcasts and stuff. It's always fun. So check it out. Deathsquad.tv.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you,
I
brother.
appreciate you coming on.
man.
As always, I'm Ryan Sickler on all social media, ryansickler.com. Talk to y'all next week.